Garland. The poor guy doesn't even have a title. It's just Garland. And for that matter, no one really talks about him. In fact, I don't even recognize him from Final Fantasy IX at all. Who is this guy anyways? Well, regardless, Garland's Trustmaster Reward, the lengthily named Desire for Cycle of Rebirth, increases the unit's magic by 40% and the resistance to stop by 50%. The parameter boost is pretty standard for what's considered a good stat boosting Trustmaster Reward as of this video's release. That's not to say it's bad, but it's not enough reason to aim for Garland specifically. The bonus effect isn't so valuable in my opinion. First off, it's not complete immunity, so it's not completely reliable. Then there's the fact that there are many excellent units that can provide stop immunity for your entire team. His Super Trustmaster Reward, which happens to be his very own cloak, fluctuates a bit more in value. As an accessory, a flat boost in magic by 60 is pretty high, and the additional 30% elemental resistance against all elements is incredibly valuable. Is it worth a Super Trustmaster Reward, Mugo? It definitely wouldn't hurt, though you're definitely going to have to take a close look at your equipment roster before you chuck it at him. Let's get to his active abilities. Garland here is pretty ordinary. He only has one chaining attack, and that's Chaos Wave Awakened. Well, it's better than Chaos Wave. For that matter, Psychokinesis here is a perfect example of an ordinary Chaos Wave Awakened attack. That's it. We don't even get an objection sound effect. Moving on. He has two other elemental Chaos Wave chaining attacks, Fire and Dark. Flame Burst and Shadow Burst don't even have anything special attached to them. But on the other hand, they're stronger than Fire Break and Dark Break, which comes with a 100% Fire or Dark Impero, depending on the ability you select. Back to his other abilities. Inhibition Wave is nothing special. It has a decent chance to inflict stop, but at the same time we all know that's a lie. Wicked Wave isn't much better, though it does have the nifty chance to inflict every status ailment instead. Anti-Shield Wave is a 70% defense break that recovers a good chunk of Garland's MP gauge. He also has Anti-Spirit Wave, which just breaks spirit instead of defense by the same amount and recovers the same amount of MP. Why didn't they just mash the two together? I don't know, but Garland's definitely going to suffer for it. With that out of the way, let's get to his cooldown abilities. Dark Flame Wave is an attack named by a 5-year-old that imperos the enemy's fire and dark resistance by 130%, and increases Garland's resistance against all elements by 30%. The Impero is extremely high, and the elemental resistance is absurdly low. Ultimate Flare decreases the enemy's fire resistance by 120%, deals fire magic damage that partially ignores the enemy's spirit, and it increases Garland's limit burst damage. Ultimate Doomsday does the same thing, but it specializes in dark damage. Finally, Overseer's Duty has an extremely high chance to inflict stop, which might even have been useful in Arena if it didn't last for a single turn. Otherwise, it boosts Garland's magic by 250%, lets him quadruple cast, and increases the damage modifier of all of his attacks. Let's look at his passives. He has a small MP regen, and his small elemental resistance against every element is a pretty cool addition. He likes to dual wield, which is strange, considering the fact that he's holding nothing. He's just standing there, menacingly. He also has an interesting counter ability that has a high chance to inflict stop. This could be useful in Arena, if you manage to build him so that he's actually able to survive. But it's not too difficult to build him with full elemental resistance, as Garland's already 50% of the way there, without any external sources. Well, let's talk about his limit burst. It's nothing too significant. It deals magic damage that partially ignores the enemy's spirit and decreases both the enemy's fire and dark resistance by 120%. Now let's create a rotation for him. You'll begin with Overseer's Duty, follow up with Edgy Wave, and then double cast one of the two burst attacks. On the second turn, you'd use one of the ultimate cooldown abilities and then continue to triple burst. That's literally it. You'd quadruple cast burst attacks until one of the cooldown abilities is ready, and then the formula becomes cooldown abilities and then burst. There's not much reason to use his limit burst. While it does partially ignore the enemy spirit stat, it doesn't really enable anything significant like a quadruple cast. The Impero, while useful, is partially accessible through a cooldown move that only has a short 2-turn cooldown anyways, so it's not like it's going to be difficult to pull it back up. So how good is Garland? To be honest, he'd be pretty bad if he didn't have the ability to quadruple cast. Not only that, his powerful cooldown abilities aren't part of a chaining family, so it's slightly more difficult to pair him up with other Chaos Wave Awakened chainers. If you take a step back from him, Garland's the dictionary definition for a unit that exists to be power creep. He brings nothing interesting to the table except for a stop niche that is ridiculously narrow. And while Garland currently happens to be the only character that can imperil the dark element by 130%, that doesn't mean much when his weaker imperos are essential to increasing his damage. But if you take the negatives away, you see that it doesn't actually inhibit his gameplay too much. His high amount of elemental resistance actually makes him the easiest mage in the game to prepare for any difficult content. Beginners would greatly appreciate Garland, as it's likely that they don't have that much elemental resistance gear to begin with. If you pair him with a copy, Garland is a significantly powerful mage, surpassing Dancing Heart Penelo from the previous banner. But unfortunately for Garland, he pales in comparison to the other 7-star unit on this banner, Angel of Death Kuja. On any normal occasion, you shouldn't be unhappy to get Garland. But if you're trying to pull Kuja and land this guy instead, well, no one will think any less of you for crying. Thanks for watching, and if you liked this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Comment below if you managed to get Garland and tell me who he is. I don't know much about Final Fantasy IX, but I do know that this guy somehow gives off the impression of someone that gets betrayed by Kuja.